CEO Ronald Hickman from Creating the Difference. You guys asked if we would throw the GOAT bowling balls, IQ Tour, Venom, Shock, and Envy Tour on a tougher pattern. So we decided to go pretty tough. 2024 US Open pattern. We're gonna let y'all see how the GOATs perform on that pattern, talk a little bit about what we see reaction-wise. Let's go ahead and get right to it. We will start with the IQ Tour. Throw a few shots, couple different spots on the lane, see kind of what works. We're gonna have to get them sanding pads, but that's also why you see, when you see the pros sanding their bowling ball, that's why, because they don't hook. Yikes, that went straight. Okay, so before I do that though, let's jump to the Envy Tour, because we actually had sanded the Envy Tour. Go watch the other video. If you want to know what the grits are, these bowling balls, just go watch the other videos. You'll see what the grits is. But obviously that didn't work. But let's just see what this ball does. This ball was actually pretty strong. It struck, but it didn't hook, and it wasn't really a great shot. So I can tell you now that we're going to be adjusting surfaces immediately. Let's throw it again. Of the three that we had, the Envy Tour was the strongest. But I can already tell you, like, man. Like that. That's what happens when you bowl on the US Open pattern. So immediately, it's like, okay, what would you do here if those were your first couple shots? We haven't even thrown a Venom Shock, but there's no reason to, because it ain't gonna hook either. So we're going to go grab a nice 500 grit True Cut pad. We're gonna take our Envy Tour, and we are going to put a little bit of conditioner and adjust the surface. So that's one of the big things to start off with, right? Like, and you see that too. You see those guys on TV, on tour, they're sanding the heck out of their bowling ball. Well, that's why. Like, you need some performance. We've got to get this ball to start hooking in the mid portion of the lane. And if the lane pattern doesn't allow you to do that, the only other option you have is to adjust the surface. So, in that exact fashion, we will now adjust the surface. And this is why having True Cut sanding pads is so important, because it is really the only way to alter the performance of your bowling ball after your bowling ball's been drilled. And all the guys on tour use it. Well, let me rephrase that. All the guys on tour alter their surface of the bowling balls. Most of the guys on tour use True Cut sanding pads, and by far, the best players in the world use True Cut sanding pads on their bowling ball. All right. We now have a 500 grit surface, which this obviously would not work in a league environment. It doesn't work on our house pattern, but it'll be just fine now on this particular pattern. 2024 US Open. We got some more hook now. Doesn't mean you got a lot of hook, just means you're gonna have more than what we had. Wow. This video is going to be so much fun. So, we have to move in, right? Longer the pattern, the closer to the head pin you want to be. So, we shall do that. Okay. Not the end of the world. We can make that work. Not bowling on the China no more. No, no, no. All right. So a couple things immediately you can tell, right? Like, much straighter, much closer to the pocket, and a lot of surface on the bowling ball. So that's the first big difference. Wipe your ball off every shot. Look at all the oil on the ball. Wipe it off. Every time. Every time. Now you don't have a lot of room, as you can tell, right? Speed's got to be a little bit slower, but the shape of the bowling ball is still good. The shape of the bowling ball is still good. It's just long. Like, that's really the big difference here. The ball shape is still continuous. It's just much, much, much longer. So you can see, like, there's not a lot of hook. It's definitely way more controlled, but it's just a little bit long. So, and it's at 500 grit. So you remember when the bowling ball was at 1,000 and when it was at 4,700, look at it now at 500 grit. That shows you the power of the pattern, right? So that's fine, let's switch. Let's go to the IQ Tour. Now, we automatically know that's not gonna work. Like, this bowling ball is too shiny to work. So we're gonna hit it also with 500 grit. And I'll show you one little extra trick you can do too, so watch this. So the bowling ball, you can see the track lines on the bowling ball right here. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go this way across those track lines. What that's gonna do is that's gonna make the ball want to pick up as early as possible, which is what I need this ball to do, right? Like, I need it to pick up early. Now, to be fair, you also have to sand the entire ball. So we're gonna sand the entire ball. But most certainly we're making sure that that area that's gonna hit the lane is definitely got a very aggressive grit that's going against the track of the ball. All right, let me make sure that we sand the whole ball. And what we're trying to do is create some earlier hook here. Earlier is going to turn into usable, which will be exactly what we need. So you can see we sanded the entire ball, nice and even, but the area that matters the most has a very aggressive cut that's going against the way the ball is going to go down the lane because we want the ball to start up earlier. So, okay, now, same thing. Got to be close to the head pin, got to be fairly straight with our launch angle. Flat 7, just a little bit weak. First shot, not the end of the world. But definitely long. You can see where I sanded it. So it's going directly against these lines, which is what we need. I need this ball to pick up as early, as soon as possible. I got just a smidgen, I mean, just a little bit left there, and you see what happened. So one other key that's gonna help here is just getting the ball speed a little bit lower and maybe rolling the ball a little bit more. So what I mean by that is getting that ball to get into a roll a little bit earlier from a hand position standpoint. Like that, that's the little roll earlier. Okay, so I big forward, but that's fine. That ball picked up in the right part of the lane, and it had that, again, continuous shape. So that's usable. Like, that shape, that reaction is usable. That just means I'm in the wrong part of the lane a little bit. So I had to make a little adjustment off of that. Should be fine. Should be fine. And so the big difference is my track is a little bit higher now than what it was because I'm rolling the ball more this way to get into that roll a little bit earlier, which is exactly what it did. And now I at least feel a little more comfortable with the reaction that we need to be able to strike here. Yep, so 6-pin. So we went big 4, made a little move, 6-pin. And so this is the reason why those balls that are goat balls, because it's predictable, right? It's consistent in what it does, and it's predictable. So now it literally is going to be another So one gets us where we need to be. But see, the shape's good. So like, if you watch this video and look at the shape, and then watch the video we just did this ball when it was at 4,700, and look at the shape's the exact same. Like, it's the exact same. Now, granted, I'm having to do a little bit more manipulation to get the bowling ball to pick up, but that's because of the environment. But the actual reaction, the actual shape is still really, really good. Gonna have a little more flat 7 pins. That's just part of bowling on the hard pattern. That's part of bowling on a longer pattern too. Okay, so that's the IQ Tour. Let's do the Motiv Venom Shock. Same thing. Not gonna be able to use it fresh. But let me show you. Let's do that. Let's throw it right there. Let's throw that ball right there. Just because that way, instead of talking about it, you can see it. So this bowling ball was 4,700. This was the ball that we threw on the league pattern. So we're gonna stay where we were and throw this ball. We'll even keep the release where we're more up the back of it too. So let's see what happens. This never gonna work. Like, this is why when you go bowl tough patterns, your league balls, they don't work. This is why they don't work, because the environment is so drastically different than what you're used to, and your shapes become very, very different. One more time. For those that are like, yeah, you did miss left, because I did. Let's do it again. That's a good shot. For 6. So do not, like, that's why you should not necessarily use your league balls in a tournament environment, because though it may look good, you saw what just happened right there. Now that we've shown that, let's again go with a 500 grit sanding pad. Same thing, we're actually gonna go aggressive against the grain, against the track lines, because that will allow the ball to pick up early, as early as possible at least. Remembering that you have to sand the entire surface of the ball per USB-C rules. You cannot just sand the track. If you do, that ball will be kicked out of competition. So do not do that. Sand the entire surface of the ball. There, however, is not a rule that says the direction. You are allowed to sand the ball any direction you want, just as long as it's even and as long as you do the whole ball. So we're sanding the entire ball, and we are sanding it against the track. Let's get over here, make sure we get it nice and even, like so. All right. Much stronger performance, much closer, closed angles to the front, allowing me to be able to get that ball to get back to the pocket. So you can see why there's a big difference, why surface matters. Like, that's huge as explaining why surface matters. You can see the ball here. You can see the sanded lines and see kind of how the ball is tracking against those sanded lines. That's all geared to help make it start to pick up early so that it does have some shape to it. Because it's a goat, because it's continuous, a little bit of a mistake doesn't turn into a huge mistake, AKA a little 6-pin there. Gives me a little warning. Hey, maybe you want to just small one board move. So here's the benefit to being a super high rev rate player, right? So this is why a lot of the guys that are successful on tour are really high rev rate. They can create more of that shape. And because you can create more of that shape, you get a little bit more room for error. But definitely, like, it's very obvious that these 3 bowling balls, I'm in a similar part of the lane, right? I would tell you that from a total hook standpoint, the order probably hasn't changed much, but yet definitely you have to adjust the surface. Like there's just no question. If you don't, then you get 6 and 7 and you look like an idiot. So don't do that. Adjust the surface, adjust your hand position. Here, you know what? So like that last shot was a strike. So let me throw what I would, my normal league hand position, all right? Let me show you that real quick there. Oh, that wasn't so bad. But I think I don't have as much room for error with that. If I get it a little further left, I'm probably going 3-7. Let's do it. Let's just do it. We ain't got to talk about it. Let's just do it. Education for everybody. So we're going to stay there, or we're just going to get it a little further left. Yeah, see, that's the problem. Like, it never starts up. Like, it'll never start up. So if you get the angle going the wrong way, it never starts up. If I'm more up the back, try to get the ball into a roll, and I do that, it will at least begin to start up, so I at least got a chance to hit the head pin. So here, same thing. We're going to get it left, but I'm going to roll it so it has a chance to get back. Let's see. Left, but see, I have a chance to get the head pin. So like that's the difference. So there's a couple of lessons here. One, the shape of the bowling balls is still the same, but you can't use them with regular surfaces. If you do, it's just not going to work. The ball's going to go way too long. Two, even when I used my normal release, the ball did come back and it would strike. But the moment I missed a little bit, the miss is magnified. And because it's magnified, you know, you're going to leave a lot worse stuff. Whereas when I got the release that was more up the back, get the ball into a roll, get the ball to start up a little bit earlier, be a little more controlled, maybe I don't carry as much, maybe I leave a few more corner pins, but I'm able to get the ball to hit the head pin. I'm able to get the ball back to the pocket. I'm able to leave something that's makeable. So that's another big change. And that's a lot of the things that we don't ever get to see bowling league versus watching these tour guys, because they are masters at doing this. They're masters at hand positions. They're masters at ball speed. They're masters at controlling of hand speed and ball position, hand position and ball speed. And then they also understand the right balls to use. And they've got tour reps to help them to make sure they've got the right surfaces. So there's a whole lot that goes into it that you and I don't ever really get to see. But at the same token, it's kind of cool because those guys are still averaging 220s and 230s and 240s on patterns where somebody like myself, who may be decent in league at 220, maybe now I'm only going to be 200 or 180 because the environment's so much different. I may not have the right surface on my bowling ball. I may not be throwing the right bowling ball, and I may not be in the right part of the lane. So all of those things kind of go into the consideration when you're bowling on sport patterns compared to the normal standard league pattern. But you guys asked for this review. Let us know what you think. Let me know if you liked this on the U.S. Open pattern. If you want to see us to do some other sport type patterns that maybe aren't as hard as the U.S. Open, let us some comments. Let us know. We'll definitely read the comments and would love your feedback. Not a member of our staff? Get on our staff. Learn more about these sanding pads, man. How to use a sanding pad, when to use a sanding pad, why to use a sanding pad. We give you a little bit here just because of the pattern that we bowled on. At the end of the day, if you know how to use the surface, sanded and polished, you can help take your ball reaction to the next level. On behalf of Creating the Difference, I am CEO Ronald Hicklin. Talk to you soon.